Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So I've published an article about the male education gap, especially in college. It's on our website, which I've linked below, menarhuman.com. You see the title, Will Biden's Free College Education Help Close the Male Education Gap? And it's about Joe Biden's plan to give free college for associate degrees, for two-year degrees. Now, the article does mention this plan from Joe Biden, but really it also looks at the larger issue, which is the male education gap. And this is something I've covered on this channel before, how men are statistically behind in education. And this is true for college and university as well. So let's look at some of the statistics and see just how serious this problem is and what the effects might be. So what is the male education gap, and how would Joe Biden's plan potentially help? It's been a trend for years now where men are less likely to go to college and men are the minority of college students. Right now, men are only 43% of undergraduate students in U.S. universities and colleges. You can see more women have enrolled in college since 1979, and the ratio seems to have only recently stabilized at around 57%. That means that men make up only 43% of the national student population, and they also earn only 43% of bachelor's degrees. And if you look at degrees broken down by gender, you can see it's even worse for associate degrees. The two charts on the left is associate degrees, which Biden is talking about. On the right is bachelor's degrees. You'll see in every single racial column, women are more likely to earn degrees than men. And a woman of any race, and I always mention how men's issues affect men of all races, and this is another issue where that's true for, women of any race are more likely to earn college degrees than men of any race. And this is very much a gendered problem where men are less likely to go to university. But why? And why is this? Why are men not going to college as much? And this is something that I explore in the article. Now, I found a very interesting publication from Hechinger Report, which you can see here, and I've linked down below along with everything else. And they found this startling statistic. During COVID, the male decrease, because a lot of people stopped going to college during COVID and they stayed at home, but it was not equal among genders. It was 7 times higher for men. While enrollment in higher education overall fell 2.5% in the fall, or more than 461,000 students compared to the fall of 2019, the decline among men was more than 7 times as steep as the decline among women, according to an analysis of figures from National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. And the biggest reason why for men listed was money. And many students listed concerns over tuition and money as the primary point of consideration. And this is a quote from one of the students that they interviewed. When he and his male classmates talk about going to college, said Deborah Adden, it always comes down to one thing. We're more focused on money, said Adden, 17, a senior at public high school. Like getting that paycheck, you know? Whereas if I go to college, I've got to pay this much and take on all this debt. While money may not be the only factor, it certainly does seem to be a possible major factor. And that's why the idea of free education becomes so interesting, because in addition to the education gap of men not going to college as much as women, there's also a scholarship gap where boys earn significantly less scholarships than girls. This chart here, also linked below, shows just how big the gap is. Only 41% of scholarships go to boys, which is statistically closer to 1/3 than 1/2, which is a pretty significant gap. Another contributing factor may be the grading gap, where boys earn lower grades in all subjects at all ages. But research suggests that discrimination may be at play, and boys may get lower grades for the same work than girls do. And this might mean that less boys, less male students get the grades to qualify for college scholarships, but not just because they're not as smart or not good workers, but because of bias in grading and getting lower grades than they deserve. So I've linked my article and the sources below if you want to give it a read and tell me what you think. I think Biden's plan is interesting. The idea of giving free associate's degree. I support the idea of free college education for those who earn it and those who work for it and those who deserve it. But I do think the gender gap in education, which is really at all ages, it starts from as early as 6 years old all the way through university is something that should get more attention, because it's definitely a problem in society if you have such a large gender gap in education. So anyway, thank you very much, and tell me what you think in the comments below.